He was thinking about, and I don't know if he ever did it, but he was thinking about making them so that they could wander around the woods and look for Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm. I am the Squatch Finder 5000.
But I mean, when you're saying you're making AI, to discern like our technology from UFOs.
Yeah.
Well, so this is so many questions. I can't remember who it was that said that they thought it would be really interesting if we get sentient AI. It might have been you, Miguel. We get sentient AI.
Jeff Ritzman.
Okay, yeah, that's right. And then the AI comes online and it says, "Okay, that's you, and that's you, and who are these other people in the room?" And we're
right.
like, "Wait, what other people? There are no other people."
Yeah. It was Jeff.
Yeah.
Yes, the late Jeff Ritzman.
Which kind of reminds me of my other dream scenario that it would be a great sci-fi, a great start to a sci-fi short probably, is aliens land and we rush up to the craft and we say, "Oh my goodness, we're glad you finally stopped and said hello. We've been seeing you in our skies for years, and you've been contacting us and we're glad that you finally made official contact." And the aliens look at us and go, "Oh, you guys experienced that too?"
Right. Oh, that wasn't us.
Just us. Yeah.
Going back to other weird, and I feel like this stuff all kind of connects. Like back in the late 1800s, you had all these people looking at Mars, and they were seeing canals. But yet we get to Mars, and get better telescopes and stuff, and all the canals are gone.
Yeah.
So what were they seeing? Because it wasn't like one person saw them. Numerous people saw them, mapped them, but yet they're not there.
Oh, so you mean that aside from Percival Lobo, other people were actually seeing the canals?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, I thought that's really news to me, because I really thought it was just...
I could be wrong?
And the Italian guy Schiaparelli, from which he got the idea of the canali. That's when that mistranslated the word from channel to canal, which canal denotes artificiality. But I don't know. It may be.
I thought they actually saw some stuff too. But
okay.
And of course, anything like that just gets dismissed. And it's like, but you can't just throw it out. I mean, they were seeing something. It may not have been what they thought they were seeing, but what were they seeing? Or the transmissions we picked up. I know Keel talks about like transmissions that people were picking up from astronauts that didn't exist, that were like dying in space or something. Or was it Tesla who picked up what he thought were Martian transmissions?
Mm-hmm.
Mm, yep.
Yeah.
So I mean, none of this stuff has been really explained. It's just kind of like, oh, they were just wrong, and it's like, but what were they hearing then?
Yeah. I mean, it's the typical half-hearted dismissive hand wave, like, oh, it was just nothing, that we get so often from the establishment.
And I mean, it's hard to say how morphic reality really is, because what are the chances there is a freaking moon around, is it Saturn, that looks like the Death Star?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I mean, and is that because I don't know, there was some retro causality and George Lucas happened to like, oh, okay, so that came out and George Lucas went, oh my God, it looks just like the Death Star, and that retro causally caused him to design the Death Star that way, 30 years earlier.
This reminds me of something, because I've always found it really fascinating that the moon is the right size that it is for eclipses, and
right,
and right. all those other moon statistics, right? But if you talk to a lot of reductionists, they'll say that it's a fallacy to find that wondrous, because we wouldn't exist without that being here. So it's a prerequisite for our existence. And while I kind of understand that to a certain degree, I had a friend of mine who put it a really interesting way. He said He said, "Look, all I know is that I can take my cell phone apart, take all the chips out, like literally take it apart component by component, place it in a Ziploc bag, and I can shake that sucker for 1 billion years, and it's not going to make a cell phone."
Right.
And I always thought that was a really elegant, interesting way of putting it.
So there are ancient records that apparently imply that the moon did not exist at a point.
I have not heard this.
Yeah, that was in Who Built the Moon. They quote a bunch of very old texts that talk about a time before the moon.
Well, I knew that birds didn't exist, but...
Oh, right, yeah, birds aren't real.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, I don't know, I've never read the book that Who Built the Moon, but I do know that those kind of ideas, oh yeah, there was a time when there was no moon, it was also picked up by this crazy German guy during the age of the Nazis, who had this idea of the eternal life theory, the idea that there's been several moons that have risen and fallen, and every time that it falls, it's like a new age for mankind and all of that. But like I said, this is something that was intermingled with Nazis' racist ideology.
Yeah.
So probably one of the reasons why people don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Fair enough.
Nowadays, you know?
Yeah. And also so we've been able to scientifically show, although if I'm not mistaken, there's not actually enough time for life to have spontaneously arisen here. And they don't actually know how that would have happened anyway. They're just it's just kind of like, oh, everything was just right and poof, life. But that's one of the things supporting the panspermia idea. But also, all of our calculations have been made based on the moon being there.
Right.
So like, has anyone ever tried to say, okay, could all of this exist without the moon?
I mean, I don't. From my understanding, it couldn't. But
well, that's my understanding too. But I feel like they're going with the prerequisite of the moon has always been there. So, thus,
therefore, yeah.
Because we're looking for life on other planets, and we're and we're not looking for planets with moons like ours.
I mean, we are. I feel like we are tied. I mean, like, look, you look at the things that the human body goes through in outer space.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the least conducive to our existence of any environment that we know. Like, it's just to the extent that I think that it might be a major barrier for interstellar travel. Like, it's that bad.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And so I guess by saying that, like, we need a lot of the things on Earth, even beyond. We don't normally conceptualize needing gravity, right, to survive. Like, that's not like food, water, air, sunlight. It's not even like sunlight, right? It's like, oh, you need gravity to survive? You can just take it for granted, right? So I kind of wonder if the moon isn't one of those things as well. That it's just. Yeah, that there's if not us directly, there are other things in the ecosystem that would basically cause a complete collapse of all life without the moon. That's the way I personally feel. So
well, I think if you took the moon out now, yeah, life on Earth would self-destruct. I mean, we're connected to it; it's part of our ecosystem. Just like if you changed the sun in any major way, everything would go haywire.
Right. So you're saying that there could be a before the moon, and it was fundamentally different than what we know now.
Right.
I
do think there is. I don't remember if there's a theory in the electric universe, and I don't necessarily support it, but I find it fascinating that we were once that Saturn was once our other sun, and that Earth was what belonged to Saturn's star system and eventually got brought into the star system it is now, and everything like electrically balanced out. And I don't know if the moon is a part of that. I I mean, the idea is, to me, seems very far-fetched. It's taken from a lot of mythology and stuff like that, and I've never looked that deep into it. I did have Walt Thornhill on talking a little bit about it, because I almost feel like, okay, the electric universe is a really interesting idea, but this is almost a step too far, and I think if people start taking the EU stuff seriously and then they hear that, they're like, okay, no, this is nonsense,
Yeah.
But there are two different aspects of it. Like, the EU stuff can still be accurate, even if that particular theory isn't.
I mean, it's this idea that what gives you permission to entertain or to say, no, that is, okay, you're speculating, but that is a science-based speculation, or say, no, that's too far out. Like, I was discussing the SU conference last weekend, earlier in this podcast, and one of the speakers gave a presentation about dark matter, and one of his ideas is that, well, what if aliens use dark matter as a fuel? It's like, well, this is like one of the most abundant things in the universe. What if they are smart enough to like make use of it, and exploit it? And one will say, well, first of all, you don't even know what dark matter is, and now you're just saying that the aliens are using it as fuel.
Yeah.
But if someone had invited, a proponent of the electric universe theory to this conference to give some kind of lecture, maybe we'll say, well, this guy is a crackpot. Why are you inviting him?
Yeah.
I said, well, listen to what these guys have to say. And this is the eternal discussion, who is right, who is not, who is going too far, who is making grounded assumptions. One of the other proponents of one of the other speakers in this conference was trying to reconcile the Drake equation and the Fermi paradox with UFO sightings. Something that Frank Drake probably would have a heart attack if someone would have, done that. So he said, well, for this probabilistic modeling, I use 10 assumptions about intelligent civilization. Says, dude, what gives you the right to make 10 unprovable assumptions?
That's it's only about 10 assumptions too many. I mean,
Exactly.
But yet, when you deal with dark matter, so much of that is assumptions.
Yeah.
And that's accepted science.
Well, I mean, one of these guys, like I said, was a dark matter expert.
Right.
And he actually, I was thinking about you, Seriah, when he was saying, and by the way, we know that dark matter exists, and it's not just a reason of us not understanding gravity. Like I said, Seriah will be asking questions here in this part.
I would like to see the proof that dark matter exists.
Well, he gave a few, and I think that I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because it was compelling, and I like his presentation.
What did he give?
One of the things that I asked him is, okay, so you're telling us that we don't know what 95% of the universe is made of, not only dark matter, but also dark energy. So what makes other scientists uphold the so-called mediocrity principle of saying that there's nothing particularly special about our position in the universe? I mean, aren't we made of like the gold of the universe, the 5%?
Yeah.
Of everything that's out there? And the guy say, well, I never thought about that before. That's an interesting way of putting it. Nevertheless, he said, I still think that the mediocrity principle upholds because that 5% is very evenly distributed everywhere we look into the universe, But yeah, I mean, all these assumptions, like the mediocrity principle, there's nothing special about our place in the universe. This idea that ever since Copernicus, scientists keep telling us, no, you're not special, you're nothing, you're insignificant.